Toll.
I must talk to that journalist or the poet. They must know about Darius. Nearby the church they just mentioned.
Toll. Aber ich fand es halt trotzdem komisch. Ich meine, ich stand... Oder habe ich das vergessen? Ich weiß es nicht. Ich stand halt trotzdem da. Er hat da gekloppt und ich dachte, ja, okay, irgendwann wird er vielleicht mal reingelassen oder so. Haben wir hier nicht eigentlich ein paar Ratten? Okay, wenn aber schon mal... Ja, gut. Größer.
Welcome, sir. Please, take a browse of my wares.
I am Dr. Reid. I would like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
Doctor? Interesting. I'm Barrett Lewis. Usually I don't have time to waste with talk, but at this hour of the night I can hardly refuse.
Have you heard of a nurse called Dorothy Crane?
Nurse Crane? So the bitch really is a nurse, then? Always thought she was just some crafty foreigner, that one.
So she's trying to help her fellow immigrants. Why would that make her a villain?
Dorothy Crane ain't even a real name. Something like Dorothea Craniu. Something like that. Came to England fleeing the war, I was told.
That doesn't explain why she irritates you so much.
Your precious Nurse Crane gives away medical supplies and prescriptions for free. I offered to sell it for a fair cut, but no. Miss Crane wanted to play the quiet saint.
How is business around here?
Business? I have no business. Between this racket, theft, and customers getting scared, I'm losing money every day.
I see. Sounds like you blame someone in particular for your situation.
It's no secret Joe Peterson spends his time harassing merchants. But with me, he's trying to put me out of business once and for all.
As a merchant, you see Whitechapel every day. Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary recently?
Well, you mean besides the epidemic, the war, and all the usual crap? As long as I can remember, this part of town has been a bottomless pit, and no sign of the bottom yet.
Have you been hurt?
No, but that's only because I ran like hell. Those men were raving lunatics, I tell you. Not even able to speak anymore, just screaming.
Violence is increasing in the borough.
Yeah. A few nights ago, some blokes jumped me. Came out of one of the condemned workshops. Fever, madness, something like that.
Where did this happen? Why did you go there?
In the closed workshops nearby. I worked there as an apprentice in better days. Now I only go to find trinkets or tools. Too bad I was mugged, though. There was good money in that little box of loot I lost.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Lewis.
Okay, wir haben zwar, also handeln wollte ich jetzt mit dem nicht, aber wir haben zumindest mal ein bisschen noch was über die anderen erfahren. War mal über, also, war das über Dorothy? Ist die das? Dorothy Crane, also dass sie zumindest nicht so heißt, wie man denkt, aber ich dachte, die wäre hier auch schon irgendwie dabei gewesen. Und das geht mir halt immer noch auf den Sack, dass ich die Scheiße hier nicht... Ihn würde ich ja ganz gerne behandeln, ihn könnte ich ja auch behandeln. Aber ich verstehe halt nicht, warum es nicht geht. Das ist halt das Blöde. Ach so, Joe P. Ist das der Schläger, von dem er erzählt hat gerade? Wir quatschen mal wieder.
Excuse me, sir. I have a few questions for you.
Another journalist? I didn't answer the first one, so piss off!
I'm not a journalist, I'm a doctor.
A doctor, you say? It's quite a rare breed in this part of town.
Really? But still, here I am. Dr. Jonathan Reid, at your service.
I'm Joe Peterson to some, but Colossus Joe to most. And I don't remember asking for your service, sir.
Have you heard of a nurse named Dorothy Crane? She's a colleague of mine, and is supposed to live around here.
Dorothy Crane? Yeah, I know her. One of the few good souls who dare to help the sick around here.
Could you please tell me more about her?
She's a nice girl. Tries to help the migrants. I offered to give her a hand, but she said my reputation would attract too much attention.
According to you, physicians are scarce in this part of town. Why is that?
Not familiar with this neighborhood, are you? I guess your fancy colleagues are too afraid of being stabbed in the back.
This part of town does have quite a reputation. Would you say it's justified?
Totally. Look at me, for instance. I always look my opponent in the eye before knocking him out.
May I ask what you do around here?
I do whatever I want, and sometimes even more. Now sod off.
How did you become the local bully everyone is afraid of, Joe?
There's no pride in roughing up poor bastards. But this is the only job I've found. And it pays well, too.
A job? So you're racketeering for someone else?
I got enlisted by the Wet Boot Boys, a gang from the docks. I'm their muscle for their dirty work.
Most people don't become thugs when unemployed. This is a choice you made.
I don't care what you think, sir. I do what I have to do for my own reasons, and that's that.
I'm not sure Mr. Lewis would agree with your by all means necessary philosophy, sir.
Oh, do you really think he's the poor victim here? Barrett can be as sneaky as anyone. Long ago, I even called the bastard my best friend.
Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
Okay, warte mal, Barrett Lewis, war das der Typ hier? Warst du? Okay, wir haben sich anscheinend zerstritten. Gesund, gesund, aber beeinflussen kann ich die immer noch nicht. Okay, da wäre eh noch mehrere. Ich würde aber am liebsten den einen Stadtteil, beziehungsweise erstmal das Krankenhaus soweit abschließen mit der Quatscherei, dass wir uns dann erst zum nächsten begeben. Aber irgendwie scheint das schwierig möglich zu sein. Wer ist das da? Eine unbekannte Dame. Aber ich will halt jetzt auch hier keinen vergessen, ne? Aber da steht ja wenigstens noch immer unbekannt. Okay, was ist... Achso, wie so eine Clinton finden. Was ist mit dir? Was war jetzt gerade?
Forgive my interruption.
Do not apologize, my son. Father Tobias Whitaker is always happy to teach mortals about the incoming Armageddon.
I am Dr. Jonathan Reid, and I just have a few questions.
A scientist? You are much more lost than I thought, my son.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
I don't like the liberal ideas of nurses, but I especially abhor that Nurse Crane you mentioned.
Why do you hate Nurse Crane more than other nurses?
Before coming to London, she was a member of the communist resistance in her country. That's what happens when you let a woman get involved in politics.
So you're not exactly a fan of Florence Nightingale's work. But nurses are essential for modern healthcare.
Nuns should be the only women allowed to take care of male patients. It's obvious only they have the necessary moral fiber.
What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes and consequences, and most of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what do I know? Blinded by science as I am.
But you are seeking answers, aren't you? Answers about the Armageddon about to strike the city. Answers about the hidden truth.
I am. But the answers I seek are based on facts, not superstition. Have you any friends? Any family left in these terrible times?
No. But I have a disciple I see as my son. He is so devoted. I sent him to preach the good word in the heart of this corrupted city.
You sent him on some preaching crusade during the epidemic.
As a true believer, Samuel will fear no evil while he walks through the valley of the shadow of death.
Where did you send him?
I sent Samuel to the Stonebridge Cemetery, where the pestilence and evil grows night after night.
I have heard enough for tonight. Goodbye.
Okay, das ist schon mal ein dämlicher Wichser. Kann ich jetzt schon mal sagen, den kann ich überhaupt nicht leiden. Okay, da haben wir noch einen unbekannten Typi, aber komme ich hier überhaupt rein? Ja, aber soll ja hinter Kirche irgendwie sein, ne? Wo wir dass wir mit unserer eigentlichen Untersuchung mal fortführen. Aber wichtig, erstmal vorm Kampf aufladen. Au, blöder Sack. Okay, das sind jetzt 3, das ist scheiße. Moment. Ja. Nein, 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 nein. Nein, ich hasse es. Mann, lass mich doch wenigstens mal einmal. Ja. Oh. Ja, ja, komm. Alter, wie oft? Ja, endlich, ey. Dass das nicht jedes Mal funktionieren kann. Oh, Nat, ey, komm. Man hat ja wohl ganz klar gesehen, dass der vor mir erstmal zum Halt gekommen ist, sage ich mal. Okay, fickt euch, Alter, wisst ihr, ernsthaft. So, tschüss. Schnauze voll hier. Man hat aber ganz klar gesehen, dass ich... Das war falsch. Dass der vor mir... Direkt vor mir... Also... Ist ja egal, ihr habt's ja gesehen. Oh... Diese Steuerung. Kann es hier nicht ein paar Ratten geben, Mann? Warum gibt es hier mal bloß eine Kanalisation oder bestimmten Orten? Hier bist du auch Ratten rumrennen, die ich ein bisschen auszuzeln kann. So, finde Richard in dem Bereich. Ist das da Richard? Du siehst aus wie ein Richard. Worum ging es denn? Finde die Antwort von Whitechapel, Erpressung. Achso, ja. Mit der Krankenschwester da. Es ist halt ein bisschen komisch, dass die halt Medikamente und sowas vor lau rausgibt, aber da so ein riesen Geheimnis draus macht, weil sie wahrscheinlich das Krankenhaus beklaut, kann ich mir vorstellen, aber trotzdem. So, und das wirkt für mich wie der Sohn von dem Prediger, also dem Sohn.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reid. I would like to ask you a few questions.
Please be my guest. Although I may not be the best informant regarding this part of town, my words speak about that which the eyes cannot see.
Really? Are you an artist of some kind?
I'm a poet, sir. Richard Nethercott, at your service.
Are you aware that your life could be in danger in this part of town?
But this is where I must be to feel the real beat of the city. I had to come, see it for myself, alone.
If some misfortune came upon you, who would be here to help you?
Well, you for a start, my dear doctor.
I understand your need for solitude, but it's not safe around here.
I don't care. I don't have many friends, Doctor, and my family despises me.
May I ask what you're doing at this hour of night, sir? Do you live here?
Not at all. I'm just enjoying the pleasure of a quiet walk. Though night talks are always preferable, if you ask me, especially with strangers.
But are you not afraid of the epidemic?
Oh, why should I? I see some equity in the Spanish flu. No flesh should be saved, say the scriptures. Good or evil, rich or poor, all are equal in the eyes of the flu.
If you say so. But as a physician in a time of epidemic, I must caution you to avoid unnecessary exposure, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. But we both know the seeker of truth has to go boldly where the weak dare not.
What are your thoughts on the terrible situation in this city?
Terrible, you say? No. Of course, the death of so many innocents is a tragedy. But the scourge has not been all bad for the city. Oh, no, sir.
What are you talking about?
Do you remember London before the flu? Noisy, cacophonic, quiet nowhere to be found. And now, listen to this oddly peaceful silence.
Peaceful? That's quite an unusual way to speak about the epidemic. And very inappropriate, I must say.
Most people fail to understand my perspective. I don't blame them. But how could I call myself a poet if I veiled my feelings?
May I ask you a few questions about the district?
Extraordinary part of town, is it not? I'll be glad to help you, if I can.
I'm looking for Dorothy Crane, a nurse who lives in this vicinity.
Dorothy Crane. Oh, I love the name. The Crane of Whitechapel. Sounds very mysterious. But, sorry, no, never heard of her.
What can you tell me about an old man called Darius?
Darius Petrescu? Yes, I know him. At first, I thought he was only a small publisher. I invited him to publish my work, but his reaction was pretty clear.
Not interested in your talent?
Darius is an old political activist who takes delight in printing tracts and lampoons. Those communist activities only require mediocre writing skills.
I'll leave you alone, sir.
Sehr aufschlussreich, aber es könnte halt wirklich der Typi sein, den der Prediger meinte, ne? Also so von der Art her. Das ist auch nicht verwunderlich, dass er ihn halt als seinen Sohn ansieht. Ist das, was wir gerade von ihm erfahren haben? Von wegen, er wollte da was verlegt haben? Sehr geehrter Mr. Niddercott. Vielen Dank für die Übersendung Ihres Gedichtbandes. Leider, Lieder aus der besiegten Stadt, gut, leider würde wahrscheinlich auch passen, den wir interessiert und tiefgründig fanden, wie wir Ihnen schon nach Erhalt des ersten Exemplars mitteilten. Haben Sie angesichts der schrecklichen Zeiten, die unser Land durchlebt, bitte Verständnis dafür, dass es momentan völlig ausgeschlossen ist, ein Buch mit diesem Titel zu veröffentlichen. Da Sie sich noch immer weigern, den Titel zu ändern und Ihr Werk vollständig oder gar nicht publiziert sehen wollen, muss ich Ihnen leider mitteilen, dass sich Sycophant Publishing für letztere Option entschieden hat. Mit freundlichen Grüßen, A.G. Morris. Und ist das abgesagt, der Brief des Verlegers? Okay, warte mal. Okay, er hat eine Erkältung. Ich will bloß mal gucken, ob ich darauf nochmal ansprechen kann.
Good evening, Mr. Nethercott.
And good evening to you too, my good sir. Can I be of any help?
You don't really make a living from your scribblings, do you, Richard?
No, sir, I don't. I work so hard. I put all my time, my energy, my devotion into the precise carving of words.
When she was younger, my mother was a painter and a poet. She told me many times how poor her artist friends were and how she helped them.
My parents pay for my rent, my food, and my clothes. All I have to give them in return is lies they do not believe.
You seem embarrassed.
Someday I hope to proudly offer my first publication to my parents. Until that day, I'll remain the failure of a son they have to support.
Tell me, Mr. Nethercott, why seek inspiration in Whitechapel?
The place is not beautiful per se, but how to explain it? Stirring and challenging.
In what way, exactly?
The struggle by gaslight, the barren smiles and the added hunger under the rain.
If you say so.
Such vibrant antagonism and vivid paradox, the stripped humanity raged across each street.
Vivid, of course, yes. And what about the poignant distress?
Oh yes, the poignant distress. You see what I mean, don't you? That's what I want to write about, and that's what Whitechapel is made of.
Do you not think it a little morbid?
On the contrary, sir. Whitechapel is full of life, full of beauty. Just like my dear muse, the wonderful Camellia.
What can you tell me about Camellia?
Not much, and that's the beauty of it. She can't speak, you know. She's a locked mystery who exhales kindness and sweetness.
And have you ever tried to learn more about her? Where she lives, how she survives, whom she may know.
Maybe I prefer she remains an enigma. Reality can be so dull, don't you think?
Perhaps you're just afraid to find out the truth about your muse.
One day, perhaps, I'll ask her to come with me. But will she still be my wild flower of Whitechapel if she moves uptown?
I'll leave you alone, sir.
Okay, hat sich dann doch schon ein bisschen gerechnet. Ich meine, für unsere EP ist ja sowieso mal gut. Aber es lohnt sich halt wirklich überall anscheinend dann reinzugucken und alles mitzunehmen. Habe ich bisher, glaube ich, auch gemacht. Bin mir nicht ganz so sicher. Ah. Aber dass da halt auch Briefe und so drin sind, die uns weiterbringen. Okay, hätte ich nicht mitgerechnet, deswegen... Ein kleiner Blumenstrauß, ein Gutschein für eine kostenlose medizinische Untersuchung ist zwischen den Blumen versteckt. Den wir schon hatten? Also, aber okay. Okay, das ist ja seine Camellia. Aber, komm. Ich will auch mal vielleicht den Fall mit der Erpressung lösen. Der begleitet uns ja schon sehr, sehr lange. Okay, Clayton. Ist das Clayton manchmal? Nicht reingehen.
Excuse me, sir. Are you familiar with this part of town? Name's Clayton Darby, reporter.
Sorry, I'm new to Whitechapel. But perhaps you could help me since you're a journalist. My name is Jonathan Reid.
Dr. Reid, the famous surgeon. I'll gladly help if I'm able, sir.
What is a journalist doing in this borough after sunset?
He goes where none of his colleagues would dare to go, to inform the country.
So you risk your life to reveal the truth. I saw many reporters do the same during the war.
Whitechapel is the crucible of so many untold stories and tragedies. I want people to know them.
That's quite honorable of you. But is the public interested?
Not at all, sir. And that's why I'm an independent journalist, hoping to sell some stories.
Why are the newspapers keeping silent about the Spanish influenza? It's as though none of you care.
There's a war going on. People shouldn't be demoralized by news of deadly diseases.
It's a disgrace. People are left to die alone. No one is properly informed of the risks.
These are bad times indeed. So much for the glorious British Empire.
Have you any idea of the danger you face in these streets at night?
I've had to run and hide more than once from frenzied mobs incensed by the fever. Do you think the flu is really responsible for this, Doctor?
That science is unable to explain the facts doesn't mean there is no rational explanation.
I confess, I share your point of view, Doctor.
I heard you're investigating an underground medical dispensary in Whitechapel. What do you know about it?
Not much, I'm afraid. They are wary of strangers, and I'm not really an acquaintance of theirs. Why do you care?
I'm afraid one of the nurses from the Pembroke Hospital may be involved with unsavory activities.
Ah, could it be Dorothy Crane?
Without a doubt, you are a damn fine journalist, Mr. Darby. What do you know of her accomplice, a man named Darius?
I don't know much about the man. He's very cautious. Never goes out. Doesn't seem to have any friends or family.
He has no relatives at all?
No. Except for that strange man, a poet named Richard Nethercott, who sometimes comes by. Darius would never let him in.
Where can I find this Mr. Nethercott?
He spends most of his time lurking around Whitechapel, talking to himself or declaring verses. These days, you can usually find him behind the church.
He never goes out?
No. A few days ago, he unexpectedly did. I followed him, but it was just a ruse to keep me away from his house.
Really? How do you know?
He went to the nearest mailbox, but just before posting his letter, he ripped it up and threw it away.
Goodbye, Mr. Darby. Farewell.
Okay. Finden den Briefkasten und den Brief. Ich würde sagen, so wirklich Informationen habe ich jetzt gar nicht bekommen, aber außer das, was wir schon wussten, gerade mit dem Dings. Das bringt uns jetzt aber trotzdem nicht großartig weiter. Also ich kann mir nicht vorstellen, wie es uns weiterbringen soll, selbst wenn ich den Brief jetzt finde. Kleiner Gutschein für kostenlose... Ja, okay, das ist er nicht. Muss ja irgendwo in dem Bezirk hier sein. Okay, mit Camellia könnten wir aussprechen. Vielleicht hat die ja Hinweis, was das ist. Oder ist es eins von den Pflanzen? Könnte hier natürlich auch Müll sein. Okay, eine Feder, toll. Ich habe ein bisschen das Gefühl, ich muss mit ihr erstmal reden. Gut, wir haben jetzt alle 3 Blumensträuße weg. Den Briefkasten und den Brief. Nicht doof. Vielleicht weiß er, vielleicht weiß er noch was über den, wo ist denn er? Über den Briefkasten.
Good evening, Mr. Nethercott.
And good evening to you too, my good sir. Can I be of any help?
Did you know the mute florist is a member of a secret society?
No, I didn't. But I thank you for this information, sir. For it only enriches the mystery surrounding the precious camellia.
Are you not curious? Is there not more you wish to know?
That girl has not an ounce of malice in her. Whatever she may be hiding, it's certain to be for the benefit of most, if not all.
I fear you are a hopeless romantic, Mr. Nethercott.
Guilty as charged, Dr. Reid.
I'll leave you alone, sir.
Toll, ich habe ja gedacht, dass er vielleicht ein bisschen bockig wird und dann uns den Briefkasten verrät. Okay, wir quatschen mit Camellia vielleicht. Ich kann es dir zwar nicht vorstellen, weil ich sehe jetzt hier, oder ich versteife mich zu sehr darauf, dass ich damit den Briefkasten sehe. Das kann natürlich auch sein. So, Madame, Grüße.
Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reid. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I know what you're thinking. A tall stranger who meets a girl in the street at night. It reeks of the penny dreadfuls. But I mean you no harm, truly. I know you understand what I'm saying. Your silence has nothing to do with you being mute, does it? Tell me about Richard Nethercott. I understand he is quite fond of you, Camellia. Camellia, I know you work for Dorothy Crane. Please tell me about her secret dispensary. A stubborn and mute comrade. Nurse Crane and Darius Petrescu have been clever. Very well. Goodbye then.